This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Presented by GSMC Podcast Network. Before I get started today, I want to make sure I remind you guys, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could, please as well, give us a 5-star rating or SMS review. It'd be very appreciated, very helpful. Allow us to see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways you can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. A few different things we could start off the show discussing today, because quite a few sports on tonight, just about everything, depending on what you like. But I think I'll get started today recapping the Monday Night Football games from, well, when you're hearing this 2 days ago, only because there were two of them, which is obviously not something we will get very often, but it may be more commonplace this year due to the whole COVID situation. So instead of just Packers and Falcons, you also got the Patriots and the Chiefs, as we talked about on the last episode. Now, let's start with the Patriots and the Chiefs. Obviously, not the matchup we were hoping for in terms of quarterbacking. Cam Newton obviously out due to the COVID, and so they had to start Brian Hoyer, who did not have himself a great game, which, I mean, is not that surprising if you've seen Brian Hoyer play before. But all at the same time, you kind of hoped, like, oh, okay, maybe we could get something going here. Not get something going, but you could hope that, like, oh, okay, maybe he'll be decent. Because at least he's been in the system before, like, he knows the offense, you would think. Like, it shouldn't be a complete disaster. And yet, that's kind of what it was. And I give a lot of credit to the Patriots defense for keeping this game close. Like I said, it was 6-3 at halftime. They held the Chiefs to 2 field goal drives in the first quarter. But like I said, the offense just wasn't able to do much. Hoyer on the day was 15-24 for 130 yards and a bad interception. Plus, he also took a sack at the end of the half when they were in field goal range. So all he had to do was literally just, if you didn't find anybody open, just throw the ball away. And then because they were out of timeouts, they'd used up all their timeouts. So, okay, just if you, I don't know, make like 1, maybe 2 reads. If you don't like it, then just throw the ball away. So you can at least kick the field goal or tie the game up. And yet, for whatever reason, he holds the ball for, I don't know the official like length of time, like how long it was, but he held the ball a lot longer than it should have been. And unfortunately, that led to a sack. And with no timeouts, they couldn't stop the clock, and the half ran out. And like I said, would it have changed many things in the second half? Maybe not. But again, at that point in time, it's just not a mistake that a veteran quarterback can make. Like, it would be a bad mistake if you were a rookie. It's a worse mistake when you're It's a worse mistake when you are I don't know, like, he's 9-10 year vet, something like that. He's been on like 7-8 different teams. Like, he's been around the block a little while. Like, so this isn't a thing that should still be happening. Like I said, that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't have happened, and yet it did. And the worst part about it is, I believe before that drive was the play where Mahomes got sacked. He was going to the ground trying to throw the ball. He got stripped, but they blew the play dead. So instead of the Patriots getting the ball in plus territory on the Chiefs side of the field, on the Chiefs side of the field, they end up having to punt and things like that. If I remember the order of events correctly. Regardless, that play happened, and that was another tough play for them, because then that's a chance where I think there's a halfway decent chance that the guy, I think Calhoun is the one that recovered the fumble or interception, whatever you want to call it. I think the ball popped out of his hands and he ended up catching it, like it's not going to ever hit the ground. So whether you want to call it fumble, interception, doesn't really matter. It should have been a turnover. And like I said, there's a chance he maybe scores on that, and then that changes the dynamic of the game, because again, instead of going to the half down 6-3, maybe they're up 10-6 or 10-9 if the Chiefs are able to get back in the field goal range. I don't know. Regardless, they're potentially up. So that was funny to see, only because normally it's the Patriots getting the favorable whistle on those type of calls, and now the Chiefs are the cream of the crop in the NFL, and now they're getting those calls that maybe you're like, that's a tough one. Though I think this refereeing crew has blown plays dead earlier than they should have been blown with other quarterbacks like Deshaun and Josh Allen, Lamar, some of those guys where they could get out of pressure. And I believe someone put a tweet out there about this. Again, don't know how true that is, but if that is true, it makes some sense, because again, he was quick to blow the whistle in terms of he was in the grasp and he was down. And it was clear he was trying to throw the ball, he wasn't down yet. It was just I don't know. I understand you want to protect the quarterbacks and everything, but at the end of the day, this is still football. You don't want to just blow plays dead before they're supposed to be dead. Like I said, that favors the offense. Even if you again, and that was the worst part about it, is because and when you blow the play dead, you can't really review it. Or generally speaking, I know they weren't able to review that specific play, so it's just you've ruined. Even if it's not actually a fumble, even if it's not actually an interception, say he was down, or say the ball was going forward, or whatever. In a normal world, say that wasn't a turnover. At least let it play out. Don't try to stop the play early, and then risk again a potential game-changing moment happening, and the refs ruining it. Because again, that's the worst thing to happen in sports, is when the umpires, the refs, whoever, some outside force impacts and has a grave impact on the game. Because like I said, you want the game to be decided by the players, coaches, whoever. You don't want the refs and the refs or the umpires, whoever, to have a major say in the game. And that's potentially what that could have been. Granted, like I said, Brian Hoyer still stunk it up. Jarrett Stidham came in to replace him in the second half. Wasn't all that better, though he did lead the one touchdown drive that they got. So there is that. But he wasn't all that better. The Chiefs were able to get a little bit more scoring in the second half, and then obviously they were able to put it away late with the ball off Julian Edelman's hands that went to Honey Badger that he returned for a touchdown. So, at the end of the day, they were just the Patriots. Again, this isn't the team the Chiefs are going to play later on in the season. Their defense still looked relatively good. Again, they still seem to have a way to figure out how to stop Mahomes to some degree. Like I said, because he's struggled in games against the Patriots over the course of his career. Obviously, he's come back and had a chance to win some of those games late. Obviously, the one in the AFC Championship game in 2018 being a highlight of that, because they couldn't really score in the first half. Then obviously they got it going in the second half, but because of D Ford, that didn't get an interception, and then they ended up losing in overtime, all that fun stuff. So the Patriots do seem to have the Chiefs' number, at least defensively, as in they have whatever defense they run, whatever schemes Belichick and the staff come up with, it seems to slow the Chiefs down. Like I said, no one officially stops them, but again, Mahomes wasn't that good in this game. He was only 19 of 29, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns. But again, they weren't really both the touchdowns. I'm pretty confident were the little touch pass touchdowns. One was a 6-yard pass to Tyreek Hill, one was a 6-yard pass to McCall Hardman. I think both of those were little jet sweep motion type, hey, let me toss it in front of me and have the fast guy outrun everybody. So like I said, he didn't really do a whole lot in this game. They held down Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Kelsey only had 3 yards for 3 catches for 70 yards, excuse me. And I think the 70, most of that came on one big catch. So it wasn't even he did a whole lot either. Yeah, he had a 45-yard catch. So outside of that, again, obviously you include everything, but outside of that, he was 2 for 25. So again, not a great day of the office for him. Like I said, the Patriots defense is a very good defense, and they did a good job, again, against the Chiefs. So like I said, will that matter when next time they play, because Brian Hoyer won't be out there. We'll see. But again, that obviously wasn't the game that we had all hoped it could be, at least from a competitiveness standpoint, due to the fact that the quarterback situation was obviously sad. And again, it was also a good reminder of the fact that it was always wild that people considered that Cam was going to have to fight for his job. But like, oh, Jarrett Stidham might get the job, or Brian Hoyer might get the job. Like, no, Cam's a former MVP. Like, he's clearly better than both of those guys. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. So, like, the fact that people legitimately thought there was going to be a quarterback competition in New England this offseason, you were fooling yourselves. Like, I don't know what compelled you to think that. Like, oh, yeah, they really like Jarrett Stidham. I'm like, all right. But then, if they really liked him so much, you would have started the game over Brian Hoyer. I'm like, come on, guys. What are we saying here? I didn't make any sense. And what also doesn't make any sense is how Dan Quinn still has a job. Because we'll talk about on the next segment a guy that no longer has a job and kind of how that happened. But the Falcons lose again. Shocker, I know. In fairness, they played Green Bay, who has Aaron Rodgers playing maybe at an MVP level, question mark. Like, again, I'll go through my MVP power rankings later. But there's through the first month of the season, there's not many quarterbacks playing better than him. Let me just put it that way. He had another great game, 27 of 33, 327 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. This was without Devontae Adams. This is without Allen Lazard. His leading receiver was Robert Tonyan, who was a backup tight end. He had 3 touchdowns, looked like baby Kittle out there. I mean, obviously not, no disrespect to Kittle, because obviously he had 183 on Sunday Night Football, like, different breed. But still, again, he had him, Jamal Williams, I believe that's Jamal Williams, I wasn't sure. Oh yeah, Jamal Williams, he had 95 yards, MVS had 4 for 45, Aaron Jones had 5 for 40 and a touchdown. So like I said, it's not like he was out there throwing to, like, just all-star lineup of weapons out there. It's just that, like, again, when you have a great quarterback playing great, they can make it work with almost anybody. As long as they catch the ball. Again, if you can get open and catch the ball, a good quarterback will find you and give you opportunities. And that's, again, what Aaron Rodgers is doing at this moment. Though, like I said, it's not like the Falcons have been the stingiest of defenses. They're already down 2 safeties. They lost KZ in the game as well to an Achilles injury. So, again, the lowest amount of points they have given up is 30 this season, the Falcons. So, again, maybe not as bad as the Cowboys' defense, but, again, this isn't them getting points scored on them is not necessarily a shock, to say the least. What is shocking is that their offense continued to struggle, at least through the air. Gurley had 2 touchdowns on the ground, but only 57 yards. Matt Ryan was 28 of 39, 285, no touchdowns, no picks. So, again, he wasn't great, but wasn't bad. Julio Jones played at least for a little bit, I think. I believe he might have left early, but I thought he wasn't in there at the end. But he only had 32 yards. Calvin Ridley didn't really do a whole lot. Their leading receiver was Zacchaeus? I don't know exactly how you pronounce the name, but again, it's like a 3rd, 4th string receiver. Like, the Packers defense did their thing. They had 4 sacks on them. And yeah, it's just one of those situations where, like, the team is in a bit of a rut right now, in a bit of shambles. The Falcons are, obviously, the Packers look great. Like I said, I don't know if it's a Jordan Love thing. I don't know if it's just all offseason talk about him falling off. I don't know what it is that compelled Aaron Rodgers to play like this. But like I said, at this point in time, you could argue that there aren't maybe 1 or 2 other guys, if that, playing better than him at the quarterback position at this point in time. Again, that's nothing new. Aaron Rodgers has won MVPs, he's been the best quarterback in the league for a period of time. So, like, again, it's not surprising per se, but again, after last year and a couple other years, like, it was like, oh, was Aaron Rodgers falling off? And again, I wouldn't say he was like falling off, but he was starting at least to trend that way at least a little bit. Again, he wasn't doing this. Like I said, if he was doing this, people would not have been commenting, is he falling off? Like, let me just put it that way. Like, last year, he was at 62%, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions again, because he's throwing the ball away a lot. Like, he's not really throwing into traffic like that. So again, the interception numbers stayed low, but this year he's at 70 completion percentage. Already has 13 touchdowns, so half of his total from last year he has in 4 games. And again, it took him 16 games to get to that 26th. The weapons aren't that much better than they were last year. He's just playing a lot better. So like I said, this would be his highest completion if he stayed at this level. This would be his highest completion percentage of his career, really. No, yeah, it would be of his career. Obviously, he had one when he was early in his career when he was playing like 2 or 3 games. He had a 2-game stretch in 2007 where he had a 71 completion percentage. But other than that, his highest completion percentage is 68.3. And like I said, he's at 70.5% right now. His yards per attempt are up there. Not the highest of his career, but will be up there about like tied for, I think, second highest of his career. His passer rating is at 128 right now, which would be the highest of his career. Again, assuming he keeps this up, which, I mean, he's probably not. But he's not at this level. Again, he might still play well, but may not be this good. I guess, through 4 games, he's at, like, averaging over 300 yards a game, on pace for, like, almost 5,000 yards. Like I said, he'd be on pace for, like, almost 60 touchdowns. Again, obviously behind Dak, who's at least not in the touchdowns, but in the yards, he's behind Dak. But again, you get the point. Like, he's playing exceptional right now. And the Packers are 4-0 because of it. I mean, generally speaking, your quarterback is playing well, you usually are winning. Again, unless you're the Cowboys. So yeah, for the Packers, again, on the Atlanta side, I don't know what it's going to take to get Dan Quinn fired, though, as we'll talk about with the next guy, like, at this point, like, it's like, if you fire a guy now, you fire a guy at the end of the season, like, there's really no difference. You know what you're getting. You're not expecting a whole lot to turn around or change between now and December. So again, whenever you fire the guy, it's just like it's just gonna happen. Like, it is what it is. Like, I get the idea of not rushing. I'm betting, and also at the same time, you would want to maybe just change some things up, hope for better play on the field. But like I said, there's really no rush to do it, only because, like, what are you trying to prove this year? Like, at this point, you're not really gonna, like, you're 0-4. I thought that was like, I know they were talking about like a stat or something, but like basically no team makes it at 0-4. And obviously that's your playoff team this year, so maybe it's possible. But again, you're 0-4. You're probably not gonna make the playoffs. Like, you probably got to see. You got a lot of injuries, especially on the defense and the secondary. You got to see what some of the young guys are doing. Maybe you got to figure out if this is how many more years you're gonna go with the Matt Ryan experiment. Again, he hasn't been the main issue, but again, he's at least a part of the reason why they haven't been able to hold on to some of those leads late in the game, at least in the last 2 games of this one. They've never had the lead. It was always kind of in control for the Packers. So, yeah, see kind of where the Falcons go from here. But any shot of them turning the season around, at least in terms of being a playoff caliber team, out the window after these last 2 games. Like I said, it gets easier from here, but again, that's everybody that's seeing the Falcons on their schedule thinks that's a W at this point in time. And vice versa can't be said for the Falcons. You can't look at a team and be like, oh, we're winless, but I think we can beat that team. Like, no, you haven't won a game. You haven't proved you can beat anybody. So they're kind of stuck. And like I said, the Packers show themselves to be one of the best teams in the league through the first month of the season. So shout out to them. So after we come back from this break, we will discuss the first coach to be let go in the NFL this season. Bit of a surprise. Like I said, I thought it would be a Dan Quinn or an Adam Gase, maybe even a Matt Patricia, but no, it's another guy. So we'll talk about him, kind of how it happened, why it happened, and like where this franchise goes from here. So we'll discuss all of that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, Bill O'Brien is the first coach to get the boot here in the 2020 COVID NFL season. Now, again, this move was both surprising and not at all surprising at the same time. It's very hard to do, to be something like that. He was let go on Monday, I believe. He was let go on Monday. So, like I said, a little bit of surprise, but also at the same time, not surprising at all, based on the way the Texans have been run the last few years. And, the Texans chairman and CEO, Kyle McNair, put out a statement saying, on behalf of my family and our entire organization, I want to sincerely thank Bill O'Brien and his family for their impact on the franchise. Bill's leadership moved the organization forward as he guided us through 4 AFC South Division championships, 52 wins, and multiple playoff appearances during his tenure. On Monday evening, O'Brien thanked the McNair family for hiring him and said he is sorry that we couldn't get this team over the hump. Obviously, again, they had their shots, and they did not make the most of it. Well, I guess he had the shots. Again, the owners, they just sign the checks. They don't really make a whole lot of decisions, depending on the owner, obviously. In the end, in this business, it's a bottom line business. O'Brien said we weren't able to get it to where we needed to get it. I understand we fell short in terms of taking this team further in the playoffs, but I do leave knowing that myself and the staff gave everything this organization deserved and more. O'Brien was hired in 2014 after 2 years at Penn State and 7 seasons in Houston. He went 52-48 and won 4 division titles, as we said. The Texans, who have never made an AFC Championship game in franchise history, came close in January. Obviously, they famously led the Chiefs 24-0, and then they got outscored 57-7 in the remaining. I think that was in the first quarter, so over the next 3 quarters. In the divisional round of the playoffs last year to the Kansas City Chiefs. Quite the mess. I guess he was fired. He's the 5th coach to be fired in 4 games in the last, since 1990. I was going to say what that's about, 30 years? 5th coach to have happened. Only 2 of them weren't 0-4. Joe Philbin in 2015 with the Dolphins and Lane Kiffin in 2008 with the Raiders were both 1-3. But obviously, Bill O'Brien was 0-4. Dennis Allen was 0-4 with the 2014 Raiders. And Scott Linehan was 0-4 with the 2008 Rams. So those are teams that have been let go. And again, this isn't just them firing the coach. They also fired the GM because Bill O'Brien was a GM famously. Or not famously, but funny enough, he had given himself more power just before he got fired. He had given himself play calling duties. I guess he took it back because, again, I guess to help jumpstart the offense or whatever. He said that he was going to give himself play calling duties. Again, he has a lot of power in the organization. And then hours later, he no longer has a job. So that was kind of funny, to say the least. But yeah, over the last few years, they traded Jadeveon Clowney. They traded 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for Laremy Tunsil and Kenny Stills. They obviously traded away DeAndre Hopkins, which was a move that looks a little shaky right now. Granted, the Cardinals aren't a whole lot better. They started off 2-0, but now they've lost their last 2. But again, their offense could definitely use, and I imagine Deshaun Watson would be a lot happier if DeAndre Hopkins was still on the roster, as opposed to in Arizona. So there is that. Traded him for David Johnson, and I think a second-round pick. So again, not necessarily the most you could have gotten for him. Also, they just paid Deshaun Watson big money. They gave Laremy Tunsil big money. I believe they gave linebacker Zach Cunningham some decent money as well. So it's not like this is a cheap roster. It's not like it's a young, inexperienced roster. This is a roster that's expected to compete, at least for the division. Not going to say they were supposed to win it or win a championship or get to the Super Bowl or anything like that. But they at least expected to compete. Maybe not this year. And like I said, that's what we'll get to in a second. But in general, the last few years, they were expected to at least be halfway decent, and they haven't exactly been halfway decent. So, yeah. Also, I believe the team is paying... Oh, yeah, they have the highest payroll in the NFL this year, and $248 million. So, again, when you're paying that much money to be this mediocre, or not even mediocre, like 0-4, like you're just flat out bad. Generally speaking, changes have to be made. And again, I mean, the fact that Bill O'Brien still had a job at this point is a testament to, I guess, the faith that the ownership had in him to fix things. Because again, it seems like every time the team screwed up or failed in the playoffs or whatever, he got more power. Like I said, he was the coach and the GM over his last, I think, definitely the last season, but I guess he got it in 2019. So he was coaching GM in the last season, including this year. So last season and like change. And obviously that included trading away Jadeveon Clowney. That included trading for Laremy Tunsil and Kenny Stills. That included giving Laremy Tunsil big deals. And included giving Deshaun Watson big deals, which again you kind of had to do. That included what else? That included obviously trading DeAndre Hopkins, which is when, if I'm the owner, that's when I would have had to step in. Again, you could have also stepped in after you blew a 24-0 lead in your chance to get to your first AFC Championship game in franchise history, and you then got outscored 51-7. Again, that's a situation where if he got let go then, I don't think anyone would have balked at it. No one would have been shocked. No one would have been surprised. Everyone would have been like, yeah, you know what, I understand. You get outscored 58-7 while up 20 points. Like, you know what? It's kind of hard for me to say you should keep your job. Especially, again, if you've been there for a while. It's not like he was the first year head coach, something like that. He's been there. I guess what it was, like 6-7 seasons. Like, he's been there for a while. Like, he's like a new guy. Coached 100 games for the franchise. So, at least in the regular season. Coached 100 games. So again, it's not like he was like it's a new hire or anything. Like, he's been there. So again, no one would have been surprised if you would have been like, you know, yeah, maybe we need to change some things up. And then obviously, once he decided he was considering trading DeAndre Hopkins, that's when I would have to step in. Like, look, if you're going to trade DeAndre Hopkins, we're going to have to relieve you of your duties. Because that makes zero sense. You could argue he was the best player on their team. Obviously, they lost him, and now they're 0-4. I imagine, I don't want to say imagine, but I think if he's there, they get at least one win. Because, again, maybe Deshaun Watson would be a little bit better. But, again, they have other flaws and issues on the team outside of just the receiver position. So it's hard to say for certain. But, yeah, right then is when I would have to step in. Like, you know what? Nope, can't do it. I can't sign off on this. This is a terrible decision. We're not getting enough back, especially after you saw what Stephon Diggs went for. I think he went for like 4 draft picks, including a first. So I'm like, we did not get nearly enough back for a top 3 receiver in the league. We can't. Can't do it. Can't do it. And they did it, and he did it. So again, that's right then is where we would like, okay. So now your time's ticking. Like, if that's what you're gonna do. Like, that means, like, your time is ticking. And, again, clearly his time ran out. And it was sad because it didn't seem like anyone came out to, like, really, like, defend him too tough. At least on social media, like, you saw a lot of guys kind of talking or tweeting things, and, like, no one really seemed to come into his defense. A lot of some of the guys didn't seem to boast. I mean, mainly, like, past players and things like that. But a lot of players didn't seem to like him that much, and obviously that was some of the beef in why Hopkins was traded, was because, again, they didn't get along. Which, again, not every coach and player have to get along, i.e. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. But at least they had winning behind it, so you can kind of live with it. Like I said, the Texans weren't winning, and Bill O'Brien had done nothing in the league outside of be attached to the Patriots. So, again, that was another interesting aspect of it, was the fact that very few players were like, he's a good coach, he's a good guy. He got a bad rap. Like, no, that's not really what the sentiment was. And that was telling to me. It's like, oh, okay. Well, if your players don't even like you, then, I mean, it's hard to believe that you even kept your job this long. And so we'll see if they're any better or worse. They can't be any worse without him, because obviously they're 0-4. But I'll be interested to see if they're any better, both offensively and just as a team with him now gone. I don't know, because, again, like I said, the talent is the talent at a certain point. Obviously, coaching helps the talent maximize itself, but again, if you don't have a good football team, you don't have a good football team. Like, you're only going to win but so many games, even with some of the best coaching. I mean, like I said, look at Miami last year. Again, they didn't have a lot of talent, but Brian Flores just it was at least showed himself to be a decent enough head coach where they won more games than they probably should have, based on their roster and based on what they were trying to do. So again, that's testament to coaching. Is when you overachieve. Like I said, the Texans, relatively speaking, kind of underachieved during his tenure there. Obviously, they won a lot of division titles. And some of the games that he had didn't have his quarterback healthy in the playoffs, different things like that. But again, they haven't won that many playoff games. Like, they could have lost to the Bills last year. I think the one game they did win before that, Derek Carr got hurt, and the Raiders started like Connor Cook or somebody like that. So like I said, it's not like their playoff wins even during his tenure were that impressive for how many times they got to the playoffs. They were perennially a playoff team. But again, we don't really have any success once you get there. It's hard to justify keeping you. And then again, when you set the franchise back as much as you have, it's again hard to say that it warrants keeping your job. Which, again, for the next guy, whoever steps in, that's going to be a big test. And like I said, it's not even just they need a new coach. Like most times, all right, you fire the coach, you just need a new coach. No, they need a new coach and a new GM. And like I said, they come in with the cupboard kind of bare. Like I said, they have the highest payroll in the league this year. I don't know how much worse it'll be next year. I don't know. I guess, but I don't think it'll be that much worse. Again, like the Watson and Tunsil and some of these deals are just starting. So again, it's only like their numbers are only going to go up. Obviously, again, the overall payroll of the team may not be this high again. But again, I don't know exactly how good Bill O'Brien is with the cap and things like that. So it'll be someone's job to try to clean that up. Also, again, you have no first round pick or second round pick this year. They're both owned by Miami. So that hurts. Because again, when you're deep into a cap situation, again, we have to see how their salary cap is, especially with COVID, and how that's going to affect them next year. See if they're going to have to how they're going to be able to wiggle their way into the salary cap if they're over the salary cap, which I would assume they would be. Guys are going to have to come up and clean that up. Going to have to probably trade away some guys, cut some guys, do different things, and that's going to be kind of tough. You saw GM on because again you have to basically it's like you inherit like a bad economy as like a president. You have to spend the first couple of years trying to figure out how we're going to get ourselves out of this bad situation before we can even kind of work on. All right, like then I can focus on other things and try building these things back up. I just need to get us out of the red. Like I said, that's hard to do when you can't afford cheap labor. And like, obviously not in like a slave kind of way, but just like in terms of like for draft picks. Again, your first, second round picks, like all right, that can supplement some of the. All right, you have guys on cheaper deals for to try to like again supplement some of the players you may be losing due to the cap situation, and you don't have a first, second round pick, and you're going to be bad. Again. Maybe they'll turn it around. Maybe they'll finish like 6-10, 7-9, 8-8. Potentially, I don't know. Romeo Crennel doesn't have the greatest track record as a head coach, but again, maybe the players seem to like him a little bit more than they like Bill O'Brien. So maybe that'll matter. Who knows? Maybe they just need a different voice leading the team in the room. But again, what coach and what GM is going to be like? Yes, this is the job I want, 100%. Again, when you're in a bad cap situation. And you don't have your first two picks this year. Like I said, you're already behind the eight ball. You're already behind the eight ball because of salary cap, and now you're worse behind because you don't have picks in the top rounds. Again, you have a bunch of middle round picks that we kind of went over, but on the last episode, I believe. But again, that's not like you're hoping to get the elite level talent in the first and second. So again, it's not impossible. Obviously, you see all pro caliber players coming out of every round. But again, in theory, it's easier to get them in the higher up in the draft the pick is. And like I said, their picks could potentially be pretty high. So now they're going to be out of luck there. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see because obviously when the firing came down, everyone said, "Oh yeah, Bieniemy and the Texans, that'd be cool." With Deshaun Watson and everything, and I'm like, yeah, it would be cool, but also like I want Eric Bieniemy to like do well. So like, why would I put him on the Texans? With their situation, with that roster, with their weaponry, with that again that cap situation, their draft pick situation, like why would I wish that upon him? Like why wouldn't I want him somewhere better? Again, you gotta go where the job is. So I'm not saying you couldn't take it or wouldn't take it if he was offered, but again, I want to see these guys be successful, and I don't know if the opportunity for success, the best way for him is in Houston. But we'll see. But like I said, that's going to be, and again, obviously, that's way, way, way down the line because they won't even be able to interview guys, really. for the actual job until after the season. So, again, we'll worry about that much, much later. But, yeah, it's just going to be an interesting thing to kind of figure out, just that, like, who's going to want that job. Obviously, again, you have Deshaun Watson, which is a nice starting piece. But, again, in terms of other jobs that could be out there, like the Atlanta job could be out there. You're going to have Matt Ryan, or you could draft a quarterback and have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Got some young pieces on that offense. That could be useful. What other jobs? In the Lions job, I don't know how much you want with the Lions job, but it could be available. What other job could be available? I'm trying to think. I know we went through our power rankings. No, because the Eagles job could be available, could not be available. We'll see kind of how the rest of the season goes. Obviously, they got the dub. Who else? Ooh, Jets. I don't know if I want the Jets job either. So yeah, I'd probably go Atlanta, honestly, because I know that owner's willing to invest into a winner. He see Arthur Blank seems like he wants to build a winner, wants to win games, wants to compete for championships, things like that. Put a lot of money into that stadium. Again, he's not afraid to spend money on the right pieces or do whatever. So again, that might be it. And then also it's a nice, attractive city. They just rebranded the team, obviously, with new uniforms. Again, you have some decent pieces. The defense obviously needs some work. But again, I don't know if the Texans would be the job I'd go for, especially, again, in the situation they're in. So, we'll see about that. But yeah, Texans, the first team to let go of their head coach. Maybe not would have been the one I would put money on. But again, as I said, based on everything about Bill O'Brien's tenure, both as a coach and as a GM, and the moves he's made and the things that have happened over the last couple of years, can't say I'm shocked in the slightest. So, again, good on the McNairs for realizing that, this probably has run its course, is what it is, and we need to move on and begin to build for the future. But also, again, just the timing of it is weird, because I don't know, I don't know if we really need to see Romeo Crennel be a head coach that badly. Or if you just think, hey, maybe there's some internal stuff that we don't know about, that, hey, look, all the players are fed up with him, he lost the locker room, whatever. And it was what, we're not even going to waste our time with this. We're just going to get it done. So, again, we'll see how it goes for the Texans the rest of the season. But they will be doing it without Bill O'Brien. So, that'll be one of the jobs available this offseason for potential head coaching candidates and things like that. And GM, like I said, because they need a GM too. So, let's see who ends up with that job down the line. But yeah, so after this next break, we're going to transition over to baseball. Not basketball, this early. But baseball. Because again, the division round started Monday. And then there were games Monday and Tuesday. So we'll talk about them. We'll start in the AL and then go to the NL. So we'll talk about the AL baseball games, the two series, and games 1 and game 2 kind of combined so far, right after the break. So stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So we will start with Astros A's, and that series is going about how I expected it to go through 2 games. The Astros are currently up 2-0, and there's just levels. Like I said, there is a level, especially when you get to the postseason. and a team that is experienced this level of baseball regularly, I should say, knows what to expect, knows how to handle themselves, knows that their guys can come in with big hits in big spots. That's a team you can generally count on. Again, I'm not going to say the Astros are going to make the World Series or anything. They may blow this series. Who knows? But still, just generally speaking, if you're going in experience versus inexperience, especially in a game like baseball where everything is so random and it's not just like, oh, the better team is going to win. Like, that's not how it always works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But again, if it was going like that, then the A's would be up 2-0 because, again, they were 36-24 this season as opposed to the Astros who were 29-31. But, like I said, the Astros are used to the postseason. So, in Game 1, they won 10-5. They were down early, though, so I give them credit for battling back. They were down 3-0 after the third due to 2 home runs from the A's, one from Chris Davis and one from Sean Murphy. But then they were able to tie it up in the top of the fourth off of a home run from Bregman, who I believe has hit a home run every year on October 5th, going back 4 years now, which is actually very wild. Don't know what it is about that day that gives him some sort of magical powers. But again, that's a very odd coincidence to have hit a home run on the same day in the playoffs 4 years running. Don't know what it is, don't know why it's happened, but hey, shout out to Alex Bregman. So, he had a solo home run, and then Carlos Correa tied it with a 2-run shot. And then again, they gave it up in the bottom of the fourth. They gave up another home run, and then they also got a sac fly in the fifth, did the A's. And then the sixth inning is kind of where they broke it open. Springer had a double that scored a run. Altuve singled to left that scored 2. Brantley also singled that it scored Altuve. So again, they came to the inning down 5-3 and ended the inning up 7-5. Then Correa added more insurance runs for good measure. He had another home run, and also had another single. So again, then they got one more run in the top of the ninth. So yeah, but I mean, this is just 10. They had 10 runs on 16 hits as opposed to the A's who had 5 runs on 8 hits, and that was my worry with the A's. Again, they have a great bullpen. But in this kind of series, if they got to their bullpen early, which the Astros did, it could be a problem. Like, again, they're starting pitcher Bassett only pitched 4 innings, 9 hits, 3 runs. All of them earned 4 Ks and gave up 2 home runs. So after they pitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys over the course of the rest of the 5 innings. And again, in a series, as we talked about, with 5 games in 5 days, you need to manage your bullpen and limit your bullpen as much as you can. And obviously, the A's have a good bullpen, so you would think they'd be able to do that, relatively speaking. But again, having to get into your bullpen that early into the series hurts. Now, again, the Astros, it's not like the Astros didn't also have to get into their bullpen. I mean, McCullers gave them 4 innings, so he wasn't spectacular. But they only pitched 4 guys, as opposed to having to pitch 7 like the A's. So again, that's a big difference there. Their bullpen came in and was lights out, shut everybody down. Didn't give up a single hit over the last 5 innings. And struck out 5 over the course of that time. So again, their bullpen was lights out, and then again, their bats came through. Which is, again, not surprising due to the experience and the talent level that the Astros have, even without the cheating. Again, these are relatively very good players that, again, did use advantages to get ahead, but that doesn't just mean they're bad players. Now, they were worse this year, but again, I think that's something that was the pressure and different things. But again, now they're just using that as fuel in the playoffs, and again, they know they can come up in big spots and get hits, and that's what they did in Game 1, and that's what they continue to do in Game 2 as well. Obviously, again, just instead of being Carlos Correa with the 2 home runs, today it was George Springer. Today as in Tuesday when I'm recording this. But yeah, he had 2 home runs. I believe now it puts him up to, I think it was 17 home runs in his postseason career, which I believe is in the top 10, which is kind of wild when you think about it, because again, you don't think of him as like one of the great power hitters. But yeah, according to MLB stats, he's now tied for 7th on the all-time home runs list in the postseason with 17 home runs. And like I said, obviously he was great in the World Series, had the 5 home runs in that World Series that they won. And he's now hit, 5 home runs in Dodger Stadium, which is kind of funny. Because, again, that's where they're playing. So I think it's going to be interesting if they win the World Series. I mean, not win the World Series, if they advance in the playoffs in Dodger Stadium. that would just be kind of unfortunate for them. Because, again, obviously they did a lot of damage to the Dodgers in that stadium. So that would just be kind of ironic. But he's again, and when you think about a guy that's a good postseason performer, like, he is up there. I believe he is he now has the second most career postseason home runs at Dodger Stadium, behind only Reggie Jackson. And obviously neither Jackson nor George Springer played for the Dodgers at any point in time. So again, these are road guys coming in and doing that. According to Jason Stark, his last 5 postseason games at Dodger Stadium, from Game 2 of the World Series in 2017 on, he's 12 of 20 with 4 home runs, 3 doubles, 7 runs scored, and 7 RBIs. So he's been sensational in the ballpark. So yeah, he's been great. And like I said, in this game, they didn't have nearly the offensive output that they did in the last game. They only had 6 hits, but when you get 5 runs and 3 of them come on home runs, that makes things a lot easier for you. Well, I guess actually 4 of them came on home runs. Small Nada hit a home run as well for them. But also, what helps them, and is going to potentially help them as the series continues, is that they got a great starting pitching effort from Valdez, who, this is his first postseason start. He's a young guy, younger guy. Obviously, he's 26, but again, he's only been in the majors this year. No, take that back. He's only pitched in the postseason this year. He's been in the majors the last 3 years, but this is the only time he's pitched in the postseason. And again, he was sensational. 7 innings. 2 earned runs, 5 hits, 1 walk, 4 Ks. Like I said, it continues to allow their bullpen to stay relatively fresh. As opposed to on the A's side, again, they didn't have to use as many pitches as they did last game. But their starter, Manai, only gave him 4 1/3. So again, you got to pitch 4 more pitchers to get through the game. Some of which pitched on Monday as well. So, like I said, it's going to be all hands on deck for Game 3 on Wednesday, because obviously you got to try to win that. But again, it hurts when you don't get good starting pitching. And like I said, they haven't got that so far this series, and that's hurt them because again, their best part is their team. I mean, you could argue is their bullpen. Like, their bullpen's been great all year. So again, you want to get like 5, maybe 6 innings and turn over to the bullpen. You got all those fresh arms. You can mix and match, pick and choose the matchups and things like that. And again, when you have to go to your bullpen in the 5th inning every game, like, that's going to hurt you. Especially in the game, especially as the series, if they are able to extend the series and continue it further. Obviously, it doesn't matter if they lose Game 3; it is what it is. But if this series goes 4, even 5, it's going to be interesting to see how fresh their bullpen is come Game 4 or Game 5, as opposed to, like I said, the Astros haven't had to pitch as many guys, so they've got either good starting pitching or good-ish starting pitching, because again, McCullers wasn't that great, or just better bullpen pitching. Like I said, even in this game, they only pitched 2 guys. Both of them had flawless innings. Paredes finished in 10 pitches, and Presley finished in 19. So again, not nothing, but again, relatively light. And then again, for the A's, it's just the thing, like, their offense isn't that good. Semien continues to hit well, as does Chris Davis, at least in this series. But again, generally speaking, like, they just weren't able to get the clutch, timely hits that they needed to, and that you're going to need to do in the playoffs. And like I said, the A's on the other hand, or the Astros, on the other hand, were. And that's really what it came down to. Springer got big hits. Maldonado and Correa gave them some insurance. And that's all she wrote. Like I said, they won 5-2. So we'll see if the Astros are able to end the series on Wednesday, or if the A's can at least stay off elimination for a game, or maybe even 2 games, push this to 5. But again, definitely not the start the A's were hoping for coming to the series as obviously the favorite and the quote-unquote home team, to lose the 2 games, quote-unquote, at home. That definitely is, and that's never good in a series. But we'll see what the Astros and their batters have in store. Maybe they can get a good pitching performance. The A's can I wonder who they're going to pitch tomorrow. Luzardo. So we'll see see what he has in store for them. See if he can put together a good performance and hopefully help them stave off elimination. And the other series in the AL, Rays, Yankees. It's had a little bit more twists and turns, ups and downs with it. Game 1 was kind of a bit of a shellacking for to a degree. Obviously, again, Stanton put it over the edge late to give them the edge. So to put them over the hump and kind of just seal the victory. Obviously, it was only 5-3 at the time that he hit his grand slam. But again, obviously that puts it a little that makes it look a little worse because obviously they, instead of being 5-3 that they could have potentially won, now it's 9-3. It looks a little bit lopsided. But in the Rays fought. It's not like it was back and forth for most of that game. Like I said, the Yankees struck first. The Rays bounced back. The home run by they pronounce his name, and I don't want to screw it up, but Arozarena made a home run. I believe he had a home run on Tuesday as well, so we'll talk about that in a second. And then Clint Frazier came up, got a big home run, got them back, but then He-Man Chu hit one off of Garrett Cole, and he's just apparently just dominated Cole for whatever reason. So that's interesting, because again, Garrett Cole's a great pitcher, but some guys had the kryptonite, and apparently He-Man Chu is his kryptonite, so that hurt. But then again, the Yankees did what they do. They got 2 home runs in the top of the 5th to get it back. Then there was limited scoring until the 9th when Hicks got a single to score a run, and then obviously Stanton hit the grand slam to kind of slam the door on a potential Rays comeback. Because again, obviously going into the 9th with a 2-run lead is a lot different than going into the 9th with a 6-run lead. So there is that. But again, they got what they needed to out of Cole. You got to win the Cole game, and they did. He was good. 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned, 2 walks, 8 Ks. So again, not a dominant performance from him, but good enough to get the job done. And then their bullpen came in, shut the door. They didn't give up any hits. And that's kind of what you want to see. Chad Green, Britton, and Sessa all came in and just did their thing. Again, obviously Sessa coming in with the 6-run lead is different than maybe a Chapman coming in with a 2-run lead. But yes, that hurt. And then for the Rays, Snell didn't really have his best stuff. Again, obviously left with only giving up 4 runs. But again, you kind of hope that he could get a little bit better performance from him. And then obviously the bullpen did what it could, but obviously wasn't able to keep the lead down as much as you would like. And then Rosarino was very good 3 for 4. He-Man Chu was good. But again, they just didn't get enough other clutch hits over the course of the game. But when it came to Tuesday, they were able to flip the script a little bit. So in Game 2, the Rays were able to battle back, tie the series up at 1, and that was big for them. And a lot of it started due to the dominant starting pitching by Glasnow. Again, he only went 5 innings, but he struck out 10 in those 5. And some of those were in big spots, so that always helps. And then again, their bats showed up once again. Every one of their runs came off home runs. Rosarina hit another one, Zunino hit one, Margot hit one, and Meadows hit one. I guess take that back, every one but one because Kiermaier had a single. And Stan was doing his best. He tried to keep them in, and he's now I think has 5 home runs in 4 postseason games. So he's been great this postseason. Everything you would hope for, and when they traded for him, this is what they hoped they could get in the postseason: him being healthy and him crushing balls in all parts of the field. That's what he's been doing. So again, he tried his best. He was basically almost the entire Yankees offense up until the 9th when LeMay was able to come through with a single and tried to give Judge a chance, but he obviously wasn't able to get the job done in the top of the 9th. But again, Stanton had 2 more home runs, a solo, and a 3-1 shot in the 4th that cut the lead from 5-1 to 5-4. So again, a little tight there. But like I said, J.A. Happ did not have his great stuff, which was interesting to me because they went with the young guy Garcia to start, but he only pitched 1 inning. And I'm like, I don't know why you take him out if you're going to... I don't know why you start him, because that's my thing about these openers and things. Again, Garcia's a starting pitcher. So again, if you're going to go with an opener, like a bullpen opener, all right. But you usually give him 1 or 2. And again, his first inning wasn't flawless, but he got out of it unscathed. So I'm like, if you're only going to give him 1 inning, what's the point of starting him? Just start Happ. You might as well just start Happ. I don't understand the point of that. And then obviously with the weird 5 games in 5 days, maybe trying to save him for another game. I don't really know what the situation is. But again, it just seemed odd to me. But again, not a manager. And then Happ came in, did not, like I said, he was not great. He gave up 5 hits and 4 runs in 2 2/3. like I said, and was a losing pitcher. So he wasn't great. The bullpen for the Yankees did their job, more or less. They only gave up 2 runs. Obviously, take that back. Garcia gave up the 1 home run. So that was his only blemish. But again, 1 home run compared to 4 runs is a big difference. And again, maybe Garcia would have given up the runs too, but it was odd to me. Like, if you're going to start a guy, like, just start him. Like, why, like, take him out after an inning? And again, it wasn't a flawless inning. He had 27 pitches in that inning, but still. I didn't understand the thought process there. But, I'm not the manager. But yeah, and then obviously this game was different for the Yankees in that they weren't able to get that clutch hit. Like in the other games, they were able to get clutch hits, but again, outside of Stanton, no one else really on the team hit that well. And even when they had chances, they weren't able to get the job done. Like in the 7th inning, they had first and second, no outs after a Torres walk and Clint Frazier singled. And then Sanchez, LeMahieu, and Judge struck out back to back to back. So Sanchez is whatever, but LeMahieu and Judge, those are two of your best hitters. You expect them to potentially come through there. And again, at the time, the game was only within 3. So again, it's not completely out of reach. And then also, like I said, you get to the 9th. They got 2 guys on again, Urshela and Torres walked. And then, and again, the Fairbanks guy, he was struggling to find the zone. But then he got a little bit of help and some other things. He was able to strike out Clint Frazier, then struck out Gary Sanchez because, like, of course he did. And then gave up a single to LeMahieu. But again, it's DJ LeMahieu, so it's not a knock on him. And then because obviously he expected, I imagine Judge expected the fastball. He gave him 3 off-speed pitches, and Judge was able to ground him to third to end the game. So it got a little dicey there, like I said, for the Rays at the end. But when the Yankees needed their clutch hits later in that game, they just weren't able to get them. And now the series is tied 1-1. So we'll see what happens in Game 3. I guess they're going to go with, I imagine the Yankees would go with Tanaka in Game 3. And I'm curious to see who the Rays would be going with in this game. Oh, they're going with Morton. So again, some postseason experience for him as well. But obviously Tanaka wasn't great in the postseason game before, so hopefully he can kind of bounce back because he only lasted 4 innings, gave up 6 runs. So we'll see if this is a little bit better because, again, he's usually a good postseason pitcher. But, again, last outing was not his best, so hopefully he can bounce back. And obviously for Morton, you're going to want to this is his first postseason start. You're going to hope he can do well. He wasn't that bad for them this year. But again, he's not necessarily a lights-out pitcher. So we'll see how it goes. But again, he has good bite on his stuff. So in the free swing lineup at the Yankees, they don't have that many guys that hit for a good average. You can potentially get them to strike out. Like I said, if that's what they're going to do, then that could give you the edge. Because I believe, let me go back and double check real quick. They had 18 Ks in this game. So again, they're not impervious to the strikeout. Like I said, outside of Stanton, no one else even had more than 1 hit. So, yeah, and a lot of guys. There were a lot of 3 strikeouts. Judge had 3, Voit had 3, Frazier had 3, Gary Sanchez had 3, Torres had 2, LeMahieu had 2. So again, free swinging lineup. They're going to strike out a lot. So again, if Morton is on and has his good stuff, could be another heavy strikeout game. But if he doesn't and he's hanging off-speed pitches, then we could see another home run derby. So, see the Yankees have to bounce back in this one, and hope they get a good outing from Tanaka. Because again, you lose 2 games back to back. Now you're on the ropes heading into Game 4 with who knows as a starter. Like literally, who knows? I don't know who their starter would be for Game 4. Maybe Garcia again. It can't be Happ because he obviously struggled today. Maybe Jordan Montgomery. I don't know who they would start in Game 4 if they got that. Well, if it was going to get that far. So again, hopefully you figure that out. Maybe we can go to bullpen day. Potentially get you through Game 4 if you're up 2-1. But if you're down 2-1, again, I don't know if the bullpen day is the best thing to do in elimination. But, hey, I'm not Aaron Boone. We'll see what he decides to do. But yeah, after we come back, we will touch on the NL series that got started on Tuesday. Obviously only Game 1. But we'll touch on those and kind of project going forward. So we'll discuss that right after the break. So stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Marlins Braves, and again, shout out to the Marlins. They held in there for a while. They did what they could. They kept the game close, and then the Braves did what they normally do, and that is score a lot of runs. So, hey, like I said, shout out to the Marlins. They kept it close, but at the end of the day, they just don't have the firepower. The Braves have. They got a decent starting pitching performance from Alcantara. 6 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned. And 8 Ks. So like I said, that's not great, but when you look at Max Fried, on the other hand, who only lasted 4 innings, gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, that's not what they expected from Max Fried today. Again, he's their best pitcher, been their best pitcher all year, one of the better pitchers in the league this season. Like I said, he's been great for the season. And he was great in the last round. I think this is not what they expected from him, but they have a very good bullpen. I think they sit on the broadcast. They're like 4th in bullpen ERA in the league. So they have a very good bullpen, and that's what the bullpen did their job. Came in and shut it down. Over the last 5 innings, they only gave up 1 run. Had a combined for 7 strikeouts. Only gave up 3 hits. So like I said, they did their job. They shut the game down. Shut the Marlins down. And then when they needed to get timely hits, they could. They did. Obviously, they started off hot with Acuna getting the home run in the bottom of the first. But then the Marlins battled back. They took the 4-1 lead after a home run and a couple solid hits from Cooper and Anderson. Then the 3rd inning came. Ozuna double home Acuna, and then Travis d'Arnaud hit a double to get Ozuna in. So now it's 4-3, and it stayed 4-3 for a little while. And then the 7th inning came, and the Braves just broke it open. Ozuna singled, scored a run. Travis d'Arnaud hit a 3-run homer, and then Dansby Swanson a 2-run homer just for good measure. And what was once a 4-3 lead turned into a 9-4 lead, just like that. And that's the thing with the Braves. And again, their offense was hit or miss in the last series, depending. But because obviously they went the 13 innings, only scored the 1 run. But their lineup is pretty good. They got good hitters all across the lineup, more or less. Even Freeman, who's the NL MVP, in my opinion. Again, we'll see what happens. He went 0 for 4, and they still scored 9 runs. Instead of Acuna, Ozuna, d'Arnaud was 3 for 3 with 4 RBIs. Like I said, Swanson had a 2-run homer. Austin Riley was 2 for 3. Their lineup was only 2 guys didn't get a hit, and that was Duvall and Freddie Freeman. So, like I said, they did what they had to do. They had their 1 big inning, and that's all you're going to need if your bullpen can shut the other team down. And like I said, that's what they did. The only hitters on the Marlins that really do anything, at least to get a lot of hits, were Brian Anderson and then Soria, the center fielder. Most of their other hitters didn't do a whole lot. Cooper was 1 for 4. Aguilar was 0 for 5. Dickerson was 0 for 4. Brinson was 0 for 3. So like I said, their lineup struggled against the Braves bullpen, and like I said, now you have the outcome that you had. And this is kind of what I expected. The Braves are the better team, in my opinion. They can probably win the series, though. You would hope to get a little bit better starting pitching because you don't have to rely on the bullpen, at least not in this kind of series, due to the fact that you're playing 5 games in 5 days, and you don't really have time. Like, you don't have off days, you don't have rest days, you don't have travel days, things like that. So you're playing back to back to back to back to back. So you got to be very strategic in how you use your bullpen, and that strategy becomes a lot easier if your starting pitching is good. So they're going to pitch Ian Anderson on Wednesday. We'll see if he can give them another good outing like he did in the last series. Because if he does, obviously that helps them out. Because again, that is less strain on the bullpen. They can pick and choose, like I said, pick and choose their guys. The guys have to be smart, have to be mindful of who they use and when. And like I said, starting pitching being good allows for them to be, like I said, you don't have to strain your bullpen as much. And that can pay dividends for you later on in the series if it goes that far. Again, maybe they're able to get this done in 3 or 4, and that doesn't matter. But if you get a 4-game series, a 5-game series, again, in 5 days where guys aren't really going to have off days, you have to pick and choose, like, all right, this guy can't throw this day or that day, something like that. Like, you're going to need a good starting pitcher. You're going to need some other guys to kind of step up that maybe haven't pitched or done a whole lot in the postseason. I know for the Padres, who we'll talk about in a second, like they had a pitcher make his debut in the postseason just because that's kind of what you have to do. Potentially, you're going to have guys pitch in weird spots and maybe only give you an inning or 2 innings so that they can come back and pitch later on in the series in game 4 or something like that. Like it's going to be a whole mess for most of these teams. So again, the more they can get out of their starter in whoever starts that game, whether it's an actual starter or a bullpen guy or whoever, the more they can get out of their first pitcher, I guess I should say, the better off they will be potentially. So like I said, we didn't get a whole lot out of Max Fried in this game, but if they can get a good game out of Ian Anderson, plus again the bats are still what they are, and the bullpen still stays as good as it was in game 1, then like I said, they should be able to get handle the Marlins. But again, as we saw in this game, and as we've seen over the course of this year, the Marlins aren't just going to lay down. They're a tough team. They're a scrappy team. Like, they're going to fight. Like I said, they just had 1 bad inning, and that's all she wrote. And then again, that's unfortunate for them. But again, if they're able to maybe curtail or kind of contain that inning, then maybe again they have a chance later on to potentially get back into it as opposed to being down 4 or 5 runs. Also, shout out to Acuna. He became the youngest player in postseason history with a leadoff home run at 22 years old and 293 days. Granted, he did get hit later, so we'll see how that kind of plays out over the course of the series. If he has because again, obviously he's a guy that's known to watch the ball and do a little. I think he did a little bat flip or whatever. But again, you lead off the game with a home run. I'm not saying you should be extra, but again, if I'm the first batter of the game and I get a home run, I'm gonna be feeling myself a little bit if I were Acuna. And plus, for my guy like Acuna, who plays a little bit more swagger than like your average player. Again, I'm not going to fault him for being excited about that, but and then obviously he got hit, so we'll see how that kind of plays itself out over the rest of the series, if that continues on or if it becomes a ongoing thing even into next season. But again, Acuna's really good. He's going to hit home runs, so if you don't want him to watch it or flip the bat, just get him out. It's that simple. You don't have to hit him. Even though apparently may or may not have been intentional, but still. It doesn't matter really what I think or what the players say. It's what Acuna thought, and he tweeted about they couldn't, something to the extent of like they couldn't get me out, so they had to hit him, kind of thing. And I actually take that back. He was hit with a 90-mile-per-hour fastball, so there's a chance that it was intentional. But hey, who knows? But like I said, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And also, again, this isn't a new thing for him with the Marlins. When he was a rookie in 2018, he was on a big home run hitting streak, and he got nailed with the first pitch of the game, just to show, like, by a Marlins pitcher, just to show him, like, yeah, no, it's not going to happen this game. So, again, we'll see kind of, obviously this has maybe been a thing that's been brewing with the Marlins over the last couple of years, but again, it's never reared its head in the postseason, so you can't really just be hitting people and getting guys on base in the postseason just to send a message, because that's going to be kind of dumb. You're going to lose. So I don't think the Marlins will continue to do that. But again, obviously they have an old school kind of coach, in Don Mattingly. So I wouldn't be shocked if this happens again. But hey, just as long as nobody gets hurt. And I think it should be outlawed from the game, but because I think it's going to happen. Just don't hurt Acuna. No. You hurt Acuna, you hurt one of the best young players in the game, one of the best players in the series. That's when we're going to have issues. And now the Marlins are going to have to fight me. So, yeah, but good win for the Braves. And then the later game, Dodgers, Padres. And it was another situation, much like the Marlins Braves game, were just the better team, you could argue, had one big inning, and that's all it really took. And again, in fairness, the Padres really didn't do a whole lot. Only had 3 hits on the day, and they only scored 1 run, so that hurt. And also, what also hurt is Mike Clevenger getting hurt. He only made it through 1 inning. Though I don't know how much, but he also had 3 walks in that inning, so I don't know how much you were going to expect from him in this game anyway, after not having pitched for a while. But they have to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys over the last 8 innings. So again, they did it in Game 3 of the last series, and again, it's give them something you have to try to figure out, because you can't just count on your bullpen guys to get you through. You're going to need your starting pitchers, or whoever starts the game, assuming they're healthy, to get you through. You're going to need Paddock to get you through. You're going to need, Mackenzie Gore or Davies if they want to start him again. I don't know who they're going to start in there throughout the games this series, but you're going to need some guys to show up. Like I said, they don't even know who their starter is going to be for Game 2, at least according to ESPN app. And obviously the Dodgers are going Kershaw. So that hurts them. The Dodgers have more defined starters. Healthy, at least. Again, because Clevenger would be a starter, Lamet would be a starter, but they're both not healthy. Or at least Clevenger was healthy enough to pitch, but then we'll see what happened with him. How serious his injury was, because I think he threw 2 pitches in the second inning, and they had to yank him. So that hurt. But yeah, they had their chances early on. They had let me double check. I think they might have had the bases loaded in the second inning. They did in fact have the bases loaded in the second, and you got Profar and Grisham to strike out back to back. Buehler did, and he was struggling. He did not have his best stuff in this game, but he had good enough stuff to get the job done, and that's what matters. He only made it through 4, but only gave up 2 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, threw 95 pitches in those 4 innings. But again, you only give up 1 run, turn over to the bullpen, and the bullpen was lights out. And like I said, that's all that matters. Dustin May especially. He went 2 innings, had 3 Ks, and only 27 pitches. So I think they took him out because potentially they were saying he could be a starter in a Game 4, probably, potentially, if they need to get there. Because obviously he's a guy that was a starting pitcher throughout the year. So it was kind of weird for them to use him in that spot. But again, we'll kind of see how it all plays out. But they could just use this as his side day kind of thing. So that would be an interesting dynamic if they decided to do that. And also he started twice against the Padres during the season. They didn't have the best numbers. It wasn't exactly shutout, but overall, like I said, he had a good year. Almost 3-1, 2.75 ERA. So again, it's not like he's not like he was a guy we get to put him in the bullpen because he was bad. No, he was solid, but I guess they just used him out of the bullpen in this game. And again, maybe they could use him again in Game 4, which, if he looked as good as he did in the Game 1, could be a problem for the Padres. So like I said, they had shots early on, especially in that second inning. That was really the one, and they had a chance to scrape some runs across, maybe get Buehler out of there earlier and get into their bullpen earlier. But he was able to escape that, throwing high, hard stuff. And like I said, they didn't really have too many other shots throughout the course of the game. That was probably their best shot outside of the one where they did end up scoring. Ross and Nola was able to score Will Myers. And outside of that, they didn't really have too many great chances. Again, I'm remembering the game and also looking through. They didn't really have that many times where they got even a guy on. The other best chance probably in the top of the 8th with the top of the lineup up. Grisham starts this inning off with a double. And then Train comes in to pitch, and then he strikes out. Tatis gets Machado ground down and strikes out Hosmer. So, that kind of went by the wayside, and then top of the 9th, they weren't able to do anything either. But like I said, that 6th inning is kind of where it all went left for them. They got the first out, Richards did, but then he walked Taylor. Mookie Betts had a double down the line. Then Strahm came in for the lefty-lefty matchup. Seaver to sacrifice fly. And Turner singled. Muncy doubled. They walked Will Smith, the catcher. And then Bellinger reached on an infield single. And that scored a run. And then they brought in another pitcher, and then Muncy scored on a wild pitch. So like I said, they came into that inning tied 1-1, and they left with the inning tied. They left with the inning, and the Padres left the inning down 5-1. Even the one that they had before then, they scored on an error where they said it was a throwing error by Cronenworth, but Hosmer just has to catch it. He wasn't even on the base. He was kind of caught off guard by the throw. It wasn't like that offline. He just didn't catch it, and then that allowed the one run to score early. That was in the bottom of the fifth. So like I said, they could have got out of that inning with it being still up 1-0, and then like I said, instead of being down 5-1, potentially down 4-1, and maybe that changes the way the Dodgers pitch or changes the way your at bats go. But obviously, we'll never know because that's not what happened. But yeah, it was just like I said, just like the Marlins game where just one bad inning kind of undid everything for them. And then, like I said, they weren't able to get the big hits when they needed them. And that's how they're down 1-0 in the series. So like I said, it's not unfamiliar territory. They were down 1-0 in the Cardinals series as well, or in the last series against the Cardinals. And they kind of didn't really get going until their backs were against the wall. So we'll see how they come out in Game 2. And again, they're facing Kershaw, who doesn't have the greatest track record in the postseason. But he was good in his last game. And like I said, I don't know if the no fans thing is going to change him or anything like that. But it'll be good for the Padres to get back into the series 1-1. Because again, even for a team as good offensively as they are, down 2-0 with the pitching question marks they have from the starting standpoint, it's going to be tough to expect them to win, especially when you're going up against a team as good as the Dodgers and with as much depth as the Dodgers. That's going to be, again, they're not impervious to postseason failure or postseason blunders or faltering or things like that. But again, it's going to be hard for them to do. Again, when you're going up against a team that doesn't have the pitching depth that you have, whether at the starting position or in the bullpen. I know the Padres bullpen is bad, but again, obviously the Dodgers have a lot of guys they can throw. Again, they're throwing starters in the middle. So granted, the Padres did too, because Richards was a starter for years, and before the elbow injuries and stuff. So. Or the arm injuries. I forget if it was the elbow or is it shoulder, but I think it was the elbow. I thought that's what they said in the broadcast. So yeah, see if the Padres can kind of tie it up in Game 2 on Wednesday, because again, you go down 2-0 to the Dodgers. It's gonna hurt. Again, the Padres this is only year 1 for them, really. So if they lose the series, it's not a big deal. They're gonna need, like I said, they need more pitching help, and also it would be different if their pitchers were healthy. I don't know how the series would go then if they had Lamet and they had Clevenger healthy and ready to go to start the series. Like the Dodgers have Buehler and Kershaw and whoever else they need to pitch healthy and ready to go, more or less. So again, that changes things. But again, regardless of how the series ends, it's a good start for the Padres. And you don't want to go out sad. You want to at least put up a fight. So hopefully they can put up a fight and at least battle back. And even if you lose the series in 3 or 4 games, at least let it be competitive 3 or 4, not like, oh, you got blown off the map, or you got blown out of the stadium 3 or 4 games. Yeah, that's what you don't want, regardless of how things go for them. But so coming up next, we will discuss the NBA Finals game. Game 5 was tonight. Again, this being Tuesday, Wednesday when you guys will be hearing this. We got to talk about it because after Game 3, it seemed like, maybe the Heat will be back in, and they got Bam back tonight. And that's not exactly what happened. So we will talk about it right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Podcast Network. So game 4, Heat Lakers. And shout out to Bam for coming back. Obviously, it was up in the air whether he was going to play the rest of the series, period. But obviously, even in this game, he was able to come back. Also, shout out to Goran Dragic for trying to play. You saw the videos of him warming up and him sitting on the bench after trying to warm up. And you could tell like he's in a lot of pain, like he was hurt. Clearly, obviously, we knew that. You knew he wasn't going to be completely healthy, whether he played or not. But I give him credit for trying to tough it out. Obviously, he wasn't able to go, and I doubt he'll be able to go on Friday, though obviously he does have 2 days off in between games, so maybe that extra day off will be able to help him get back. But, like I said, shout out to both of them for Bam for actually being able to come back and play, and for Dragic for trying to play. Because, again, obviously, you could tell that he knows and understands the moment and understands what he could mean for this team, especially offensively, because they could use another scorer out there that can kind of get his own shot. Especially if Jimmy's not going to be that aggressive. But, again, he wasn't able to play, and the Lakers benefited because of that. Because this was like a very strong defensive game. Obviously, the Lakers were able to get up over 100, but they held the Heat to 96. And they only got to 102. It's not like they were great. Neither team shot higher than 45% from the field. Neither team shot better than 36% from three. So, again, it was a very, very sound defensive game from both teams. And again, that's what you expect. These are two very good defensive teams. Obviously, the Heat can be a little bit more explosive from the three-point line, but because of the way the Lakers play defense, that's making it tough on the heroes and the Duncan Robinson of the world to get those open catch and shoot or those open dribble handoff threes that they can normally get on some other teams. Like I said, this is not the 3-point line just not as open as it once was for them. And then the Heat as a team shot 11 for 32. Hero was 3 for 7. Duncan Robinson was better. He was 3 for 6. Crowder was only 2 for 7. Nunn was 2 for 6, and he did not provide him and Olynyk did not really provide good minutes for them, which is kind of why they weren't playing a lot. So that's not surprising to me. Obviously, the lack of Dragic definitely hurts because then you have to play Kendrick Nunn more minutes, and he wasn't really doing a whole lot. He was 2 of 11 from the field, like I said, 2 of 6 from 3, 4 rebounds, no assists. So, again, some of the things that Dragic could do because he's the guy that can get you 20 points a game. Again, the Lakers are a better defensive team, so don't know how it would have went. But again, he was their leading scorer up until this point in the playoffs. So that's just a lot of offense to make up for. And no offense to Kendrick Nunn, he was very good during the regular season, but he just hasn't been that in the bubble. And obviously that's a big hit for the Heat because they could use that on their end. And also, again, they could use a more aggressive Jimmy. Because he was 8 of 17, which isn't bad. Hit 6 free throws, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals, only 3 turnovers for 22 points. But, again, it just wasn't that his same aggressive self, in my opinion, as compared to Game 3. Because obviously, Bam's out there, so there's other guys out there that can maybe get their own buckets. And Duncan Robinson wasn't bad, Hero wasn't bad. So, yeah, it's not like he was out there by himself. But, especially later in that game, it seemed like there were opportunities for him to take some shots that he just wasn't willing to take. And again, that's kind of been his MO. That's why his shooting percentages are so well. That's why he's been so efficient this year in terms of true shooting and things like that, just because he doesn't take jump shots anymore. And again, I'm not advising him to just hoist up a bunch of threes. That's not my point. But again, there's some times where if they're going to go under the screen every time when you have the ball, eventually you have to get them to either, you have to make them pay for going under or make them switch the way they play defense by hitting threes or hitting just jumpers. And they're going under and dropping into the paint as he drives because he knows he likes to drive and try to get fouled. But again, if you're not if you're not exploiting that by trying to get some mid-range shots, that hurts them. And then again, I think that's another issue with the Heat teams, that since they don't have that dominant, like, hey, get me the ball kind of guy. Obviously, Jimmy can be that, and maybe Rodgers should be that if he was out there, but he's not. Like, they pass the ball a lot. Like there's some shots that they could take, whether it's at the rim or near the rim or even from three, and you're just like, just shoot the ball. And again, this isn't a new thing, but it's just something I noticed in this game that was very evident, was that there were times where you had the Heat overpass, and then now you get late in the shot clock and now someone has to take a bad shot, as opposed to when you could have taken like a decent to okay shot about 5 seconds earlier. And now you put in guys, whether it's like, again, Kendrick Nunn sometimes, a Hero, or other guys in awkward positions late in the shot clock where they have to try to get a shot up because you guys got into the rim, and instead of putting up a shot or putting up a floater or trying to get fouled, you pass it out, or again, you had a three, and you're like, I could shoot this, but I'm not gonna. Like, you hesitate for it, or for whatever reason. And again, I'm not an NBA player. I'm not gonna tell these guys how to play offense, because clearly they've been good enough to get to the finals. So I can't get too mad at the way that they play. But at the same time, I guess I just feel like they need somebody to be that takeover, like that aggressive, like assertive presence on the offensive end, in my personal opinion. But hey, we'll see kind of what happens in Game 5, because this was Game 4. And then also on the flip side for the Lakers, they got two bad halves from AD and LeBron. They only had 16 combined at the half, and that's not a recipe for success in theory. But because of their defensive prowess and their defensive ability, they were able to maintain a small lead. Yeah, they were up 2 at half. Yeah, 49-47. They were up 2 at half. Again, part of that because the Heat weren't hitting shots. But again, LeBron wasn't really that great, wasn't that aggressive. AD wasn't really that great in the first half. And they got it together in the second half. AD had 14, and LeBron had 20, I think. So they combined for 34. No, wait, hold on. Let me do the math again. 14, 34, I believe, in the second half. To finish with, LeBron finished with 28, 12, and 8. AD finished with 22 and 9 and 4 assists, and also played great defense. Like, late in that game, they had they had LeBron on Bam, and they had Anthony Davis on Jimmy Butler. And for the most part, he did a very good job shutting down Jimmy Butler, making him pass, making him hesitant, making him try to get the shots to other guys. And like I said, that paid dividends in the end, because they won this game on defensive end. Like, their offense was good enough. They hit shots, especially late in that fourth quarter. They made enough shots there at the end. But the reason they were in that game and they were able to keep it close, and they were even able to build up a little bit of a lead in the fourth, is because of their defense. And the defensive job they did, especially on Jimmy Butler, and Anthony Davis was a big part of that. So, like I said, obviously, LeBron ended up with stats, the 28 points, the 12 rebounds, the 8 assists. Like from a stat game, he was great. But, and obviously I don't pay a lot of attention to plus minus and these things, but Anthony Davis being a plus 17 is not a surprise to me, because again, I feel like when LeBron was on the bench, and also again late in that game, like, he was a big part of the reason why the Lakers won. Not to say that LeBron was bad, even though he was a -2, but like I said, I don't really pay too much attention to plus minus every time, because it's a tough stat. Like, sometimes brothers just be out there, they won't be doing a whole lot, but they have a good plus minus because like everybody else is doing good around them. So it's hard to. It's not a very great stat for individual play, just because. I mean, again, it can kind of reaffirm what your eyes are telling you, which is, again, what stats should do. It should be a combination of the eye test. Like, if you see, like, a guy's, like, I feel like he's made some bad plays, I don't feel like he's contributed a lot to the team, and then now you look up and his plus minus is, like, -10, like, all right, then that vindicates, or that validates what your eyes are seeing. And same thing on the vice versa end of it, where you feel like this. I feel like this guy's had a great input. I mean, that's why Rondo's been so good, even though he's not really doing a whole lot of scoring. He only had 2 points. But he was a +8 off the bench, got a couple big offensive rebounds, and that was really the biggest thing, in my opinion, for the Lakers, that they got 10 offensive rebounds to the Heat 7, and a couple of those came in the waning moments, especially in the fourth quarter, where the Heat are getting stops, but they can't get the offensive rebound. So even if they don't like make a shot on the end of that, that's another 14 seconds of shot clock the team can run off. Like I said, not every time you get the second chance bucket off of that, but just even sometimes the offensive rebound can be demoralizing for you. Because you play great defense for 23 seconds. You contest the shot, you get a miss, and then the team gets the rebound after bouncing around a little bit. It was like it's a long rebound or something, and it just causes you to pull your hair out because it's tough. It's tough. Like I said, when you do everything you can, you feel like you can, and then again the other team's able to get an offensive rebound because you didn't box out properly, you didn't match up right or different things or whatever the reason may be, or just like a lucky bounce, however it happens. And like I said, then you're stuck and caught out there with now they have a second chance opportunity, and like those things can hurt. And I know that was that's what he had 7 rebounds, 2 of them being offensive, like I said, and he had 5 assists, a steal. And like I say, he only had the 2 points. Those 2 points were big because it was like off a drive. They thought they pick and roll. They thought he was going to pass it, and no one really came over it. I think Duncan Robinson thought Bam was going to help more. I guess Bam must have thought Duncan Robinson was going to give it a little bit more effort on his end. And unfortunately, no one guarded the rim, and he was able to get right to the rim. And like I said, that was down there late at the end of the game when the Heat were trying to get it together. And obviously, the biggest thing for them late in that game was the shot that came at the 3-minute mark or 3:05 mark. It was the Jimmy Butler open corner 3 that he missed. Like I said, he's not a great 3-point shooter. Like, he doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but that was a one that you hope to hit. It's a 2-point game at the time. He misses, then they get the defensive rebound, and KCP hits a corner 3 on the other end, and then now it's a 5-point game. And then coming out of the timeout, they get a shot clock violation, and then KCP hits the driving layup over Duncan Robinson. So like I said, 2-point game quickly turns into a 7-point game. And that was really all she wrote. The Heat never really got it that close. They got it. They had moments where I guess they cut it to 4 on a Jay Crowder 3, but then, like I said, the Rondo, his one shot of the game, extended the lead to 6, and then Anthony Davis obviously hit the dagger after Tyler Hero missed the pull up, hit the dagger 3 that basically sealed it. Obviously, you saw the big yell, the big replay shot from LeBron yelling after the 83 and the little celebration they had, and even him celebrating. Because again, it wasn't like the most pressure-packed shot, because obviously they're up 6 at the time, but that shot came with 39 seconds left. So again, if he misses that, then they come down and hit a 3. Now maybe they only need like one stop and they have a shot for the tie. And again, it's not like the Heat aren't a good 3-point shooting team, don't have good 3-point shooters on the team. So even if they haven't been shooting great, you never know when it could happen for them. So that was a big shot for Anthony Davis. And like I said, that shot hurt because that was right in the moments where it was like kind of in the balance. Like if you hit that one and put them up 1, okay, KCP hits a 3, but instead of being down 5, now you're only down 2. And I said those are that's obviously a big difference. Instead of being down 2 possessions, you're only down 1. And that was kind of the story of the fourth quarter, was that anytime the Heat tried to make a run or kind of had a shot, they just weren't able to get close enough. So they came into the quarter down 5, and I guess the Lakers are now 56-0 this year when leading after the third quarter. Is a mind-boggling stat. Because again, sometimes you're only up 1 or 2. Like it's not like every time they go into the fourth quarter up 5 or 10 or double digits, something like that. Like anytime they've had the lead go into the fourth, they've won. Regular season, postseason, whatever. Like that's absurd. But again, it's a testament to basically having the two of the best players in the league on your team. Is that no matter what position you're in, no matter who you're playing, you always feel like you can close out the game. And then also their confidence and brings confidence guys, like I said, like KCP to hit big shots, or Rondo to hit big shots, or Kuzma, or Markieff Morris, or I mean not really Danny Green, sorry Danny Green, but he's been struggling. But yeah. It just emboldens you and gives you that confidence to know, like, hey, look, they trust me to make the shot if my number is called. Like I said, KCP's number was called. They are there late in the fourth, and what did he do? He delivered. And that's what you would hope he would do in that moment. But like I said, the Heat were never really able to get it, and obviously another big moment came after Tyler Hero made a 3 to cut it to 1, and then Kelly Olynyk fouls Markieff Morris on a 3 after they had a great defensive possession. Kelly Olynyk was also bad in this series. I mean, in this game, much like Kendrick Nunn, their bench didn't really give him a whole lot, and that's part of an issue. Is that you can't just rely on your starters to be good. Like I said, the Lakers, they got contributions from Rondo, they got contributions from Morris. They had contributions from Kuzma a little bit. Again, even Caruso had 7 points. Like, they did something as opposed to the Lakers. I mean, the Heat bench didn't really provide them a whole lot. Kendrick Nunn led the scoring for them with 6. And like I said, all of them had negative plus minus. Like I said, Rondo had a plus 8 and Morris was even. But like I said, you just needed somebody to play good off the bench. And Rondo had it, and like I said, then Morris had his moments. Cruz had his moments, and then obviously you got great play from LeBron and AD in the second half, and then KCP hit the tough shots. He hit the tough shots. And like I said, that is what was important for them. So, tough one for the Heat, tough one to swallow. It's going to hurt. You're now down 3-1. LeBron doesn't blow 3-1 leads. Generally speaking, he finishes it off in 5. And just like he did every time this year. I believe Marcus Spears put out that he's like 12-3 in Game 5s when up 3-1. So, and 3-0 this year. So they're going to try to finish it off in 5. I imagine they're going to get the Heat's best effort. I don't think the Heat are just going to lay down for them. But like I said, it's going to be tough for them to finish this off and even force a Game 6. Like I said, I don't expect them to come back because I don't think the Lakers, I don't think the AD and LeBron will go for that. But again, if the Heat somehow get Dragic back or something like that, then give them a spark, maybe. But even then, I don't think they're going to win 3 straight games against this Lakers team, barring something happening to the Lakers. Like I said, maybe they would have to get an injury, in my opinion, to have a chance for the 3-1 comeback. But any crazier things have happened. But again, regardless, because that game won't be till Friday, so even on the next episode, we'll just be like previewing it, which I guess I'll do a little bit potentially, because again, we kind of did it here. But so it's unfortunate for the Heat. But again, shout out to the Lakers. They did what they had to do. They got the win. And got to give them credit. Because like I said, they won on defensive end, which has been their calling card all year. And then clutch buckets. And I mean, literally clutch buckets. Because, on KCP's rep by Rich Paul. Clutch Sports. So, double little bit of wordplay for you guys. Little double Aunt Andre. Don't even ask me how. But yeah. Shout out to the Lakers. They got the dub. And now they have a commanding lead. And they're 1 win away from bringing a title back to the City of Angels. So we'll see if they're able to do it on Friday. After we come back here after the last break, we will discuss. I was debating whether I wanted to do my top 5 teams or my MVP candidates, but I think you can do top 5 teams on the next episode, kind of leading into week 5 of the season. So we'll do my 5 leading MVP candidates so far. Again, it's only been a month. Even the MVP candidates after 2 weeks are a little bit different than they were after 4. So I'm kind of see how it plays out. But again, I'll just give my opinions and rank my guys, at least in the way I feel. But again, we'll discuss that right after the break. So stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
GSMC Podcast Network. So, like I said, this will just be my top 5 MVP candidates up through the first month. I will go 5-1. Once build up the suspense a little bit. But first, let's do one honorable mention. Obviously, that honorable mention will go to none other than Rayne Dakota Prescott. Obviously, his numbers are eye-popping. He's leading the league in passing yards, has 9 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions, over 100 passer rating. I believe he's like fumbled a couple times too, so we got to work on that. But obviously he's been great. But the team's 1-3, and a lot of those numbers have come in garbage time. So he cleans that up and keeps up the same numbers. Obviously he's on pace for I think like almost like 7,000 yards. Which obviously he's not going to be able to keep up that kind of pace. But having almost 1,700 yards passing through 4 games is absurd. But yeah, if he is able to keep up similar numbers, and the Cowboys start winning games instead of losing, then again he'll put himself back in the race. But again, obviously he's got a long way to go, seeing as the other guys in the race are either undefeated or 3-1. So again, he's got a lot of ground to make up. It's going to be tough for him to do that, especially after the rough start. But he should be 0-4, and also a lot of his stats have come when the team is behind in a big way, which obviously it's easier to pass because you don't have you're passing, and also the teams are playing a little bit softer when you're obviously down double digits in the fourth quarter. So again, it's a different kind of stats, only because again, don't want to call them garbage time or anything like that. But again, they've been down double digits in every game. I have to double check on that. Because I don't know, I got to look at what the Rams. I forget what the score of the Rams game was, but obviously they were down big against the Falcons. They were down big against they were down big in the last game against the Browns, and obviously they were down against the Seahawks. So they've been down in every game. So especially in the second half, so they've had to throw to come back, and Dak's been a big part of that. And while they've been able to get close to coming back, but at the same time, you can't. Again, it's not fair to attribute him those stats and attribute him like those numbers and put him up in the race when, again, you have other guys that are 3-1, 4-0, putting up similar numbers. Not the same, obviously, because again, he's leading the league in passing yards. But again, I'd rather lead the league in touchdowns and wins than lead the league in passing yards. So there is that, and obviously I think Dak would say the same thing. So for the first guy, at number 5, I'm going to go with the reigning MVP, and that's Lamar Jackson. Obviously, his numbers haven't been too gaudy, too eye-popping this year. And obviously, he had the bad game against the Chiefs, which obviously hurt his numbers a bit. But on the year, he's completing 68% of his passes, almost 800 yards, 769 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. Plus, obviously, he's doing his thing on the ground. Has a 111 passer rating, a 76 QBR. His rushing numbers aren't like too gaudy. He's at 235 yards and only 1 touchdown on 39 carries for about a 6 yard per attempt average. So again, nothing crazy, but the numbers still good. The team's still 3-1, so he's got to be in the race a little bit. And again, these next 4 will be a little bit jumbled around depending on who you ask for. I think number 1 is going to be the same for everybody, but I think 2 through 4 will be a little bit jumbled up. So for me, I'm going to put Mahomes. And again, obviously, if you listen to the podcast, I think Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, the most talented quarterback maybe these 2 eyes have ever seen. But again, in my opinion, he's been like okay for his own average. Again, over 1,100 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. That obviously helps his case. 114 passer rating, 89 QBR. So he's been great. But obviously that first half of that New England game, he wasn't really that good. And also for a majority of that, and even in the New England game, the 2 touchdowns he had, they were cheapies. They still count on the stat sheets. I'm not going to knock them, but they were, come on. They were cheapies. And also in the Chargers game, he wasn't really like that great. 57 completion percentage. Ended up with 103 yards and 2 touchdowns with no picks. But again, he could have got beaten by the Chargers if, again, Anthony Lynn's maybe a little bit more aggressive in overtime. Maybe they'd be 3-1 instead of 4-0. So, again, that's just me. Still great. Still going to be up there. Still going to be competing for the crown, whether it's the Super Bowl crown, MVP, best record, whatever you want to consider. But, again, that's just me. Like I said, I have him at 4. Still great, but just, again, a little bit behind his normal pace, in my own personal opinion. And now is where it gets interesting. So, number 3, I have, and this was definitely a surprise coming to the season, but I have Josh Allen. And again, it's not a surprise if you've watched the first 4 weeks, but coming to the season, no one would have thought Josh Allen through 4 weeks would be a legitimate MVP candidate. You probably thought he'd be better, you thought he'd be improved, but you didn't think he'd be this. I don't know, even the biggest Josh Allen lover, I could not imagine thought he would be this at this point in time. But this is where we're at. And again, obviously, he plays a little bit better teams, and then next time we move to the Titans and the Chiefs, so we'll see really what he is. But again, he did his thing against the Rams, did his thing against the Raiders, who aren't, like I said, they aren't the Jets, they're not the Dolphins, so those are two legitimate teams, more or less, and he did his thing. So on the season, he's completing almost 71% of his passes. His second, I believe, I want to double check that for you guys. Yes, he's second in the league in passing yards behind only Dak Prescott. He's at 12 touchdowns to only 1 interception, has a 122 passer rating, 89.8 QBR. Again, the fumbles and some of the decision making is still a little shaky, but again, he's not throwing a lot of interceptions, so that helps. Also has 3 rushing touchdowns, only at 3.3 yards per attempt, so he needs to get that up because he's usually about a 5 yard per attempt guy. I'm trying to see if they have his fumbles in there. Yeah, he has 3 fumbles. So, again, through 4 games, not great, but he had 8 fumbles as a rookie and 14 last year. So, again, fumbles, that's what he is. Fumbling less? On pace to fumble less than he did last year, but and then the fumbles are still going to be there. Some of the decision-making is still there. So you got to clean that up. But from the passing standpoint, he's been great. And that's, again, what you wanted to see. You want to see continued improvement from a young guy as he goes from year 1 to year 2 and then year 2 to year 3. And obviously this year is a massive jump through the first 4 games. Again, still in the first 4 games. Got to see it over the course of 16. But through the first 4, he's looked great. So, again, I can't really be mad at him or knock anything that he's done so far. And again, it'll be important to see if he can keep it up. Because if he can, then I think he's going to have a legitimate case, especially if the Bills are going to be maybe the second or third best team in the AFC. Like there's going to be a legitimate case to be made that he should be in the MVP conversation. Obviously, he already is, but he should be like a legitimate, no, I think he should be like the leading candidate in the MVP conversation. So, again, we'll see how it plays out. Again, he'll have a chance to go up against Mahomes. He goes up against Seattle. He goes up against the Niners and the Steelers later in the season. Goes up against the Patriots, obviously, twice. So, he's going to have big games in big spots to kind of showcase himself and his ability. And I think that Kansas City game is a Thursday nighter, too. So, that's a big one. It'll be a national TV game. So, yeah, he's going to have some shots. He also got, again, Monday night game against the Niners, and also Sunday night game against the Steelers again later in the season. So he's going to have some national TV games. Another Monday night game against the Patriots. So again, he's going to have some shots to showcase himself, especially later on in the season where the first 4 game our shock is worn off on him. And you're like, all right, if you're going to be that good, all right, you're going to have to show us in November, December, because that's when again the MVPs aren't won in September. You get to be out to a big lead, so you maybe build up some equity, but they're won in the later games of the season. When you're getting close to playoff positioning and division titles and things like that, that's when the MVPs are won, in my opinion. And again, so he's gonna have some chance to showcase himself. And one of the first big tests will be obviously getting the Titans off the bye this week, but then the Thursday night game against Mahomes and the Chiefs for maybe the best record in the AFC at the time, if they're able to beat the Tennessee Titans and the Chiefs win their game on Sunday. Well, that'd be a big test for him. Number 2, in my opinion, again, this is only my opinion, is Aaron Rodgers. He's, like I said, he's been sensational. Maybe playing the quarterback position better than anyone in the league so far. Again, up for debate, because obviously I don't have number 1 in my MVP ranking, but he's definitely up there. On the season, he is completing 70% of his passes, 70.5, 13 touchdowns, no picks. He's been great. 128 passer rating, 93 QBR, I believe leads the league in QBR. So, hey, can't really knock it. He's 5th in the league in passing yards, I believe he's 2nd in touchdowns. He is behind only Russell Wilson in touchdowns. He is behind, again, only Russell Wilson in passer rating, outside of, again, Jarvis Landry, who doesn't really count. And Josh Allen was 3rd. Of the quarterbacks, again, you could have other guys that have thrown a pass or 2 here or there, but Josh Allen was 3rd in passer rating, so again, that's why I have them up there. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers has been great, and again, he's been doing it with guys that, no offense to the Bills or no offense to Packers, I should say, but the Bills and the Seahawks have better weapons. He doesn't have a DK Metcalf, doesn't have a Tyler Lockett, does with Devontae Adams, but he's been in and out of the lineup. And even the guy who he was replacing with, Alan Lazard, he went out. So again, he's had to make up some things there, and again made Robert Tonyan look like a valuable or viable, I should say, tight end option. Doesn't have Stephon Diggs. I mean, does have Aaron Jones, but doesn't have Stephon Diggs. Doesn't have John Brown. Doesn't have Cole Beasley. So like I said, not that John Brown and Cole Beasley are great, like all pro calibers, but Stephon Diggs is legit number one, and he's been healthy for all 4 games. DK Metcalf is developing into a legit number one and has been there for all 4 games. So again, doesn't have the same weapons, and we saw it on Monday night, but yet he's still dominating. Like I said, still in the top 5 in passing yards, in top 2 in touchdowns and passer rating. So he's been great. Like I said, I believe he leads the league in QBR. So if you care about that. So yeah, like I said, there may not be very many people, if any, playing the quarterback position better than him at this moment. So that's why I have my number 2. And then 1 is obviously Russell Wilson. There is, in my opinion, is no other answer but Russell Wilson right now. He is 3rd in passing yards behind Josh Allen and Dak, obviously, but he leads the league in touchdowns, 16 touchdowns to only 2 picks. He's been great. Passer rating, leads the league in passer rating, 136 passer rating. And again, I think if this kind of holds up, it'll be, if things stay relatively the same, like Josh Allen continues to play well, Aaron Rodgers continues to play well, like this continues to be the 5 that are in the mix, like come November, December, I think it'll turn into a 2-man race between Josh Allen and Russell Wilson, only because the other 3 have MVPs. And I think sometimes the narrative matters. Like, Russell Wilson, that was the big part of the reason why I picked Russell Wilson to win the MVP this year, because he's been playing so great that if he continues to play at that level, he's going to get the MVP because he hasn't done it. Yeah, he hasn't even got an MVP vote. So again, I feel like people realize that. They acknowledge that they've undervalued and underrated him over the course of his career, relatively speaking. And this is going to be like kind of the retribution for that. To be like, you know what, we owe you one kind of thing. Now, again, not that he's not going to deserve it, because, again, he's the best quarterback in the league right now. Well, playing this season, obviously. Mahomes is the best. But in the season, he's playing the best. So, again, it's not going to be undeserved. It's not going to be warranted if he continues this level of play up. But, again, if Aaron Rodgers is in the mix, Patrick Mahomes is in the mix, I think as long as their numbers aren't significantly better than Russell Wilson's, I think Russell Wilson will probably win it. And then, like I said, if Josh Allen continues to play the way he does, just because of the unlikelihood of it. And not that Josh Allen playing well was unlikely, but him playing this well was probably unlikely in many people's eyes. Again, obviously people thought he could improve because he improved from year 1 to year 2, but no one thought he was going to improve this much from year 2 to year 3, especially with no real offseason. Like I said, if he keeps this up, keeps his mistakes to a minimum, continues to throw the ball effectively and efficiently, especially down the field, because that was always been his big thing. Like, he had a big arm, but he didn't really know where it was going. Now he has a big arm and he knows where it's going. And like I said, he's been dominant. Like I said, he's going to have big matchups. Same thing with all his teams. They're going to have big matchups, big divisional games, big matchups against playoff caliber teams. So they'll have a chance to showcase themselves. But as of right now, as of this moment today, if the MVP vote were today, it would go to Russell Wilson. Again, I don't have a vote, so my opinion is only but so valid or relevant. But in my opinion, if you asked around, he would be the MVP today. But the season doesn't end today, and that's the beauty of the season, is that it's 16 games. The MVP leader, or the best team in Week 4 is not always the best team. Week 17, same thing with the MVP vote, who you have through the first 4 weeks, not always the same as who you have at the end of the season. Obviously, Lamar was like that, and Mahomes was kind of like that too. But even in 2017, with Carson Wentz, like he didn't really get MVP hype until like that Monday night game against Washington, and that was like Week 7, I think. And that was when people were like, oh, you know what? Maybe he could be the MVP. Like that. And so again, there's still some chance that, like, again, if Dak gets it together, or Jared Goff starts putting up better numbers, or again, Tom Brady, because he had the first week where he was looking a little washed, and now he's looking a little bit more rejuvenated. So again, if he can continue to play well, like, he could sneak his name back into it, and then, like I said, maybe a Josh Allen drops out, maybe a Lamar drops out. Like, we don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of football still left to be played this season, so we don't have all the answers. We don't know everything at this moment. We just know, like, what we've seen off of 4 weeks, and based off the 4 weeks, if I were an MVP voter, number ranking the players in the league, honestly, again, these are all quarterbacks, but generally speaking, MVP is a quarterback award. Now, whether you like it or not, it generally is. The running back or a defensive player would have to do something otherworldly to be considered, and no one is doing that at the moment. Like, again, even McCaffrey had 1,000 yard rushing, 1,000 yards receiving, 100 catches. Wasn't even close to being an MVP. Wasn't even close. Like I said, it was easily going to Lamar last year. It's not even like, oh, you know what, it could go to, no. Like, no, it didn't. It wasn't like he won Offensive Player of the Year, I believe. And he was an All-Pro and things like that. But MVP was never really in doubt for Lamar. And, like, again, that's with Christian McCaffrey doing something that is rarely ever done at the running back position. And still wasn't even that close. So, it's unfortunate for the other positions that it is an MV, it is a quarterback award. But, hey, these are the rules, and I'm just playing by them. So, like I said, Russ, Aaron, Josh Allen, Mahomes, and Lamar is how I would rank them. Now, again, people might, like I said, 2 through 4 might be a little bit of a discrepancy depending on who you ask. Some people might have Josh Allen 2. Some people might have Mahomes 3. Like, we don't really know. But I said 1 is definitely Russell Wilson, and 5, I think, is definitely Lamar, as of this moment. But again, we'll see how it plays out as the season goes on. But that'll do it for me here today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys, as always, for listening to me talk about sports. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure you're always on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Very appreciated, very helpful. I'll see what you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss. And like I said, we can discuss the MLB playoffs. We can discuss whether you think the Heat are going to be able to come back in the Game 5 situation, or whether or not you think the series is over. You can talk about your MVP power rankings, if you want to call it that, like who you think the MVP is at this point of the season is. And in the other words, Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, things like that. MLB playoffs, like who do you think is going to come out and win these 4 different series? Like I said, anything you want to discuss, we are more than happy to discuss with you on the network, via social media at the network. So again, just reach out to us there. Before I get out of here, as I always do, want to give a shout out to the essential workers that have been working on the front lines tirelessly throughout this pandemic. So doctors, nurses, first responders, EMTs, firefighters, postal service workers, delivery drivers, grocery store workers, retail workers, everybody, again, that's been deemed essential and has been working throughout this pandemic, risking your own health, risking the health of your loved ones and the people around you to make sure everyone else can be safe and healthy and maintain some sort of normalcy in their lives. Shout out to you. Again, especially if you're working at a grocery store or retail, something like that, and you're having to deal with people that may or may not take the virus as seriously as they should. I know that's definitely going to be annoying. It was annoying dealing with people before the pandemic, and obviously I imagine working in these kind of stores during this pandemic has been no fun. But again, you are appreciated. If by no one else, you are appreciated by myself. Also, like I said, if you're going to go out, and also before I move on from that, I just want to, again, Amazon, FedEx, UPS, those guys too, because again, they're doing a lot of heavy lifting, doing a lot of deliveries, because a lot of people are ordering stuff online now because they don't leave the house, a lot like myself. And like I said, and generally speaking, I've gotten all my packages that I've ordered in a timely fashion, so I appreciate you guys for that. Also, if you're going to go out to bars, restaurants, things like that, just tip your waiters, waitresses, bartenders nicely. Again, not telling you to spend beyond your means if you don't have it right now due to the uncertainty of the economy and the job market and things like that. But if you can, I imagine it'll go a long way. I imagine it'll be very appreciated by these people. So, again, if you are able to and willing, again, a nice tip I don't think would hurt anybody. It might also makes somebody's day depending on how much it is, things like that. And again, if you're going to go out, just wear a mask. It's very simple, very easy to do. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort or energy from you, and it helps keep yourself and the people around you safe. So, like I said, just wear a mask. But yeah, that has been it for me. Thank you guys for listening as always. I've been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.